Too
Oh, kids
funny.
crack me up.
Yep.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back.
Yes, we're back. So exciting. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast, #1 Internet Singles Talk Network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Barry Selby and Christine Baumgartner. Hi again, Barry.
Hi again, Christine.
So today we're talking about what are your fears about dating? And I have given this a lot of thought. Yeah, don't you feel like there really should be one of
Yes.
those?
Those two.
And I was thinking, gosh, all the different levels, and then also what a different perspective men and women would have this thought.
Mhm.
So I was thinking the fears that people have about online dating, going out and meeting people, in a singles atmosphere, just going to meet people on a first meeting, and what different. I'm so curious. I'm gonna tell the Alison Armstrong story because I think it really shows the difference between men and women. And I'd love to hear, is that the word you would use, fear? Because women would absolutely use the word fear. So Alison Armstrong, who you and I adore
Yes,
and
indeed.
cite her constantly because she's such a wise woman about how men and women have challenges relating to each other, and we're all working as fast as we can to smooth it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She used to lead a lot of live seminars in Los Angeles near the airport at very nice hotels.
Oh, yeah.
So she had this one that a friend of mine attended. It wasn't me personally. And so he said there were about 200 people, and it was pretty even, men and women. And she came out, hello, it's so nice to have you here. And she says, I have a question before we get started. How many people in this room had concerns, were worried, were nervous at all, walking from their car in the hotel parking structure to the ballroom? Every woman raised their hand, and every man looked around completely confused.
I don't know if it's confused or shocked. Might be more accurate.
So shocked. You're
Yeah.
afraid? What would you be afraid? It didn't even enter their mind to have a mild concern about walking from a hotel parking structure to the ballroom. And it was interesting because on the break, he asked some of the women, and the fear, the concern went up if they had walked in by themselves. But most women watched to see, is there somebody else walking in? Oh, good, another woman. Okay, it's a guy, but I'll kind of walk with him because then I won't walk alone. Because I know some karate. I carry a pepper spray. I still look around and think about it ahead of time when I'm going someplace new. And because from this example of Allison, you men, you lovely Y chromosome, testosterone filled people, look at this so differently. I'd love to hear from a man's point of view. What word would you use in this title?
Well, before I get to that, I want to back up 1 second because you said that you know some karate, you walk around with pepper spray.
Yeah.
In fact, you have to walk around with pepper spray is telling as well, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Because I don't walk around with pepper spray.
No.
So again, that different perspective. So I definitely agree with you that the word for women is definitely safety. Is a key one for them in dating in general. I mean, I know you're talking, for example, about walking in a parking lot, but just dating some strange man, the feel is going to be fear. For us men, it's hard to say. I mean, a few ones that come up for me is, did I get it right? Because there's a part of us that is always looking for the right one. That's definitely a very male thing. I don't know about the women do this one. It's only men do. So that's one thing that comes up because they want to make sure that they pick the best one, sort of thing. It's always this wiring in our head because we're very goal oriented. We want to do the best we can and achieve great goals. So of course, if the partner we're going to meet, there's a part of us wants to get the right one. But otherwise, it's interesting. Safety is not one of our criteria, clearly, because we don't think about that. We're oblivious to that, so to speak. And it's funny, I'm thinking, I don't think there is particularly one thing only. I have to sit on that one for the next, as we talk in the show, because nothing comes up right away going, there's one thing that we have that we're always focusing on when we meet a woman. I have my own list, but I'm not a normal man in that sense. because I've done a lot of work and I know a lot of women. So I had carry myself a little differently probably than a lot of other men do, just because I've had exposure to that and because I've learned things along the way a lot of men haven't. But just to add to preload this conversation as well with some other thoughts about fears of dating, I definitely want to speak to the stuff we carry around internally before we even go on any sort of date or go on dating apps. Because a lot of us carry past stuff we haven't resolved yet that is going to create fear for us going forward. And I want to talk about that later on too, because I've created a program for that in particular. But the thing, getting back to the dating scene, because one of the things I know from my own experience of going on blind dates, I don't think you still do this anymore, but basically you go on a date that your friend set you up on, that sort of date. I've had more than one experience where I've thought afterwards, what does my friend think I like based on the person they presented me with, That's not a fear, that's just a failure of dating, I would suggest.
Yeah, I'm like, have you met me? I thought they knew me.
Exactly, right. But the one I want to speak to, though, particularly the online dating, and I was actually interviewed 2 days ago for a friend's podcast, and they asked me something, and I said the thing about online dating. No, it wasn't. No, excuse me, it wasn't today. Yesterday. I've had every busy week, but I was talking to somebody yesterday about this in a conversation, and so the challenge is that for women, because there is definitely this thing about safety. So this is physical fear, not talking about just emotional or mental programming fear. One of the benefits through the pandemic, especially, is that the dating apps have been improved by putting built-in features to be able to do phone call or video call inside the app. And one of the things I keep recommending to any woman who's watching this video or any of the time I talk to women, if you're on the dating apps, you're single and you're looking for someone to meet, you don't give out your phone number, meet somebody in person until you've done some verification first. And because you can communicate through the app without risking any personal data, I highly encourage you to use that resource right up front, because first of all, you want to eliminate any scammers, any bots, any people who do not fit your criteria whatsoever, because how they present in the profile and then when they show up on the video doesn't come close, saves you a lot of pain later on. So that's one thing about how to overcome a certain fear in dating about online dating. So that one I want to put on the table because it's a resource that we don't use necessarily. So.
Yeah, and I'm a big Google Voice fan. If you really do want to get off the app, which is perfectly fine, then use a Google Voice number, because you can text, you can call. I mean, it's so convenient, and you give out none of your personal information. And it's really worked for me personally, because a couple guys have gone, what is that? And how do you do it? And do I have to have one? And that just seems like reasonable, rational questions. But the ones are like, no, I only use WhatsApp, or I only use Google Chat. And I'm like, so sorry. And usually they're scammers. And even if they're not scammers, they're not somebody that's respecting my concern. Because I'll even go as far as saying, gosh, I would hope, now that you're aware of this service, that if you have a sister or a mom or an aunt that's using online dating, you would share this with them, because you're a guy that is caring about women's safety, hopefully mine. And the right ones stay and the wrong ones leave. So that's really helpful. I mean, that is so helpful for women. And, the safety parts too are, there's a number of ways that you can do reverse search of their phone number. You can do reverse search of their face, their picture, their name, if they'll give you their whole name. And you can really learn a lot about them. And I, for my clients, pay for a service every month that I share with them to check people out, that you then have more of a level of security to go meet them. And then you tell somebody where you're going, and you tell the person you're with, I'm going to get a check-in text and I'm going to let them know I'm fine. So you don't tell that to somebody you have concerns about, so that when you get your check-in text, you have a word that says, oh gosh, there's an emergency, I have to leave, bye-bye.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can also use the people at the restaurant that work there, the manager, the servers, the bartender, excuse yourself to go to the bathroom, tell them you're concerned. They will get you out of there so safely, and then go tell the person that you're with, bye-bye, she's gone. Here's the bill. We're ready for you to leave now. So there's lots of ways to preload feeling safe when you're going to go someplace to meet someone.
Absolutely.
And I think that when women have that, they go, oh, wow, I never thought about that. Or, wow, I was concerned. What would people think? I told everybody when I do online dating that this is what I'm doing. Please look out for me if I'm coming to your restaurant. And they couldn't be nicer. They couldn't be more excited. They think it's all kind of fun to be part of the in crowd because the guy doesn't know we're doing this. And they're like, ooh, helping me in the background, like my new best friends. It's a lovely way to treat yourself. And you
Right.
want to treat yourself this way so that you only spend time with a man, if I'm talking to women, that would treat you the same way. I mean, my late husband was very impressed with how careful I was in the beginning. He goes, wow, you take really good care of yourself. And he took very good care of me once we fell in love. So it sets the stage
Right.
to not doing the thing that women can do. Oh, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Oh, I don't want to be weird. I don't want to say something that might upset somebody. Oh, it's your safety, your nervousness, your concern. I mean,
Absolutely.
when I've told men, I go, gosh, I was a little nervous and a little excited. They generally think it's kind of charming when I show up, and they even go out of it. Wouldn't you, as a guy, you'd go out of your way to put me at ease?
That would be my goal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've
Yeah.
done it many times. Again, I mentioned this in our shows before too about the idea of the coffee date or the pre-date. It's some of my peers poo-poo this stuff, saying, no, you got to do the formal date right up front. It's like, no, the reason why I say this is because it's about safety. This whole idea, which I talked about many, many times, and I'll repeat it here just for those people who haven't heard it, say it louder for the people in the back.
Those balcony seats.
Exactly. The idea that the way I encourage people to go on I call it now pre-date, because it's not really a first date. It's the first you meet somebody. Is first of all, you make it informal, so there's less pressure. Secondly, you do it somewhere daytime and public, again informal, because then it's easier for you to leave and you arrive separately, by the way. So you drive each other or you Uber separately to the same place. So that way, one, you don't give out your personal information. Two, you can leave when you want to, as you want to. Three, there's not a big, massive overhead because you went for coffee or ice cream or you went play mini golf, whatever you want to do. Something it can be fun, some activity, but you
A
do
walk.
it.
Yeah.
We do it with there's other people around. So again, save your numbers. Also, you do it in a way where it's not a massive expense, because the problem that some men don't get over is if a man treats a woman financially by buying her a big dinner and like a first date type stuff, and she doesn't put out, he gets upset. Which is, that's not everyone, but there are some people like that. So by removing that criteria off the table for the first time you meet, especially if you're dating, if you're out on lots of first dates from the dating apps, as a man particularly, I like the idea of having cheaper daytime dates because I can meet more women without spending tons of money. I'm not saying that I'm cheap, but the idea is that I can find the one I want to be with and invest in her. Sort of things. Then it's fun, it's joyful, and it's wonderful. But if I go on 6-7
women
dates,
worry. They feel obligated. They wonder if the man is expecting the same amount back in physical attention. So, and often when I've gone to a coffee date, a coffee first meeting, it's still pretty small, the men that if I offer, because I always offer to pay for my coffee, but it's certainly not a big expense for either person. Then the man, if he's going to buy both of them, depending on where you go, because Starbucks is not inexpensive. But he gets to be even more gallant by saying, "Oh no, let me get it."
Yeah,
because we notice if you pay. We don't care if it's an ice cream or a coffee or a big, $200 dinner. We like that you treat us.
It's the gift of giving that sense of thing. Absolutely, and the great thing is, it's not a hard stretch for the man to do that. So for us men, we don't feel like, oh God, I got to put out $300. It's like, no, just a little bit of money. Great, no problem.
Yeah.
Again, this is the whole point. Is it creates an ease and comfort, and it lets both people have an out. Because the truth is, for both men and women, if they don't want to hang out, they can just say see ya and be gone. Yeah. So that's another way of doing things. And it's just like the thing about we're talking about here. This is all about physical safety, and the fear on the physical level. We have a lot more to talk about, but I want to make sure we get this presented so people know, and also stay tuned because we've got a lot more to talk about besides this particular area of dating.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too that I've usually said, let's meet for half an hour.
Yeah.
Now, it could be that you end up stretching it for an hour, which is really enough for the first time. I mean, there's people that, it goes on for 6 hours, and how nice for them.
Right, yeah.
Generally, it's enough because you both want to be left wanting a little more. Let's make plans for the next time. I had a good time. Did you have a good time? I'd love to
Right.
do this again. I
Right.
mean, that's a
Yeah.
really, it's hard to say that if you think the other person isn't going to say it back. Oh, well, it gives you good practice of saying it out loud. But limiting the time, you want to really get to the nut of it, the meat of it. You want to get to know more about them.
Yeah.
I've found people go, oh yeah, I get my questions answered faster. I go, well, we could be talking about the weather, but I really want to know this. And I have, a time limit. And I think that that's really made them more effective too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes sense. And that's the thing is, it is tempting, I think, sometimes, especially after the pandemic, people spend a lot of time on the Zoom calls and being at home. When they get out with somebody socially, they want to spend time with them. It's like, and you get bored with each other. So in some ways, having a short clip of time saying we're committing to half an hour or an hour, and when time's up, then we can renegotiate at that point.
Yeah.
But it's so much better because you're creating a really honest container for that conversation, which is wonderful. And again, when it's over, you can walk away free and clear. There's no obligations. There's no debt to be paid, which is wonderful. So it's a lot freer. So for allaying the fears in dating on the physical level, having the least amount of threat to your safety is a good thing.
Well, yeah, because it'll give you a chance to be more relaxed, be more of your authentic self, not have, even though we are thinking more than one thing at a time, us ladies, we can concentrate more on how does he feel when I'm sitting across from him? What do I think about his voice? Gosh, what did I think about his answer? Instead of, am I going to be afraid going back to my car? Am I going to be afraid he's going to want more than just a smile and a thank you for meeting him?
Yeah.
If you've already laid the groundwork, you can put that part over to the side. We never don't think about it because it's who we women are. Thank goodness. We need to think about it. But it's not right here in the front interfering with, am I having a good time? Do I feel relaxed with him? Do I feel like he's interested in getting to know me? Am I interested in there's only really so many things we can think of at once. And I'd much rather, for me personally and my clients, concentrate on, do I want to see him again? Let's find out what I need to know to decide if I want to see him again. I mean, that's just huge. What's the point of going if you're not going to have that as the goal?
It's kind of straightforward, I know. Yeah, but it's the truth. So I want to switch gears now because I think we put enough emphasis on the point about physical safety and fear in terms of physical fear for your body and for your health.
And I want to it's good we get that out of the way because we want to talk about the
good stuff.
Yes, less intense.
In a way, yes. Though
the others are intense, the emotional stuff, but the physical stuff, we really did have to talk about it first.
Yeah, get that away first. So the thing I know we have long lists, I know, on the fears that people carry before they even go on dates. Yeah. The fears they carry around their own self-esteem and self-support systems. I'm also going to dip into, I know, with the areas about what we haven't resolved from the past that gets in the way of that, which is, again, another conversation. So I'll throw a couple on the table first. I know you've got quite a list as well, but I'll throw a couple on the table first. One of the fears that a lot of people carry, both men and women, I suspect, carry the same fear about, will this be like the last one?
Yes.
Will it be better? Will this time be different from the last one type thing? There's one fear people carry on for sure. Another one I want to put into the mix as well is, well, I'm going to say this, I'll say it that way. No, I was going to say something lines of, is it going to cost me? Because there's a feeling of the sense that I'm going to look into the relationship. But the thing is it going to be more, it's going to cost me more energy than I want to be when I'm on my own. Because some relationships end up being like a 10-ton weight around your legs sort of thing. It feels like it's a burden to want to do it. So that's a couple of on the table. I know you've got plenty to add to the list.
Yeah. And those are, so many levels to those of, if this thing that was wrong for me happened before, the question, which is really appropriate to ask, is how do I have that not happen again?
Right.
And where I always want to start is, what was my personal part in it?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see their part too. And it's so much easier to start with them. And when they
Oh
get
yeah,
fit,
of course.
life is
Yeah.
going to be so much better. Yeah. After like the seventh person, you're like, well, maybe it is me, which is exactly how I became a coach, was having that journey to
I have
say,
similar path.
yes, what did I ignore? Because that's the question I often ask. In hindsight, I know we're not going to give you a hard time about anything you did or didn't do then. Looking back, what sorts of concerns, pink flags, worries, ponderings did you find yourself noticing when you look back?
Mm-hmm.
And let's make a list of those. And what made you not pay attention then?
Right.
And there's lots of reasons. Family messages, hormone fog, because there was so much chemistry. You'd never been with a narcissist before, and they are very enticing if you don't know what's up until the big smash happens. So this is where you go, oh, still not giving yourself a hard time, because you're like, now I can learn to do better. Now I can learn to do differently. Because they always
Yes.
go, oh yeah, I now see that. And I go, good. And I'm going to do different. Great. What different are you going to do? I don't know. Well, that's
Right.
the plan. Let's come up with a plan. Seems kind of good to me.
It's kind of obvious.
I mean, but when you're in the throes of it, and especially if you're feeling, oh, and I never can trust my instincts, or I must be a bad person, or I don't know what to do, and there's no answer. I mean,
Right.
we all feel like that as human beings.
It's true enough. Yeah.
It's like when I'm doing Wordle and I'm like, there's no word made out of these letters. No, there's really no word, at least not a word I know.
You
That
brought
it
word
had
on.
a little levity to this. Yeah.
You brought word into this conversation.
Yeah. But you feel like there's no answer. And so
Right.
there's always an answer. Even in Wordle, there's an answer. So if you look at, oh, well, maybe I personally don't know the answer, but there's somebody else that knows the answer.
Right.
And I do say this out loud, so I'll say it out loud here. I want women to have girlfriends, single girlfriends. I like that you have single girlfriends. My challenge has been most of the time when I hear the advice you get from your single girlfriends is going to help you stay single, because they're very good at that. And I mean, they're probably great friends and you do fun things with them. And I just think it's great that you spend time with them. I'm just not sure you should take dating advice from them. Take dating advice from somebody who's in a healthy, has been or is now or is working on being in a happy, healthy relationship, and go, well, how would I do different? Ask them. Because there is an answer, there is a solution, there's always another way to look at it. And if you don't know, the smart thing is to go, how do I find that out? Where do I look? Who do I ask? What do I read? What seminar do I take? What podcast do I watch to get in a different perspective? Because this is never, ever to put yourself down, because you're already very good at that. And being in a bad relationship will definitely be harmful. But if you can go, oh, I can figure out how to not do that thing again. I can recognize a narcissist. I can not go in the hormone fog and ignore those red flags when they pop up. That's a huge step, huge step. So then you stop being, it's what happens. People tell me they stop being afraid and they start looking forward and being more excited about dating and deciding it might be fun if you're looking at it in I'm going to keep learning mode instead of I'm going to keep getting beaten up mode emotionally.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just seeing where I want to start with what you said, because it's like so much is on point there. The thing I want to add to that is a couple of things I want to add to it. One of which is that the idea of them going to the girlfriends, and guys going to the guy friends too, is like when you go to the people who know you well, they don't always tell you the truth. And oftentimes they, in fact, won't even be able to see the truth because they're so used to familiar with the way you are, and they don't actually see how you are when you're in a romantic relationship. So they're not just going to give you the best feedback. So to go seek the help from somebody who has been in great relationships and or has studied and learned how to do that work, and someone also doesn't know you that well, so they've got a clean slate to work with you, is a smart move. You know,
Very smart.
that's why we love working with clients who we don't know, because we help them with much more grace and ease because we can see the truth and we're willing to tell them the truth from a
Yes.
kind and compassionate place, of course.
Yes.
But that's part of the process. The second piece I want to add to that as well, and this is why I'm focused on this part recently, is there is that sense of not wanting to repeat what happened before or doing better than did before. What a lot of people do, and I'm using the term people, not men or women, because they both do this, because I did it myself, is we don't do the sort of the cleanup work afterwards. We go through a bad breakup, we go through some sort of ending that was traumatic or tumultuous or just tragic that it ended. And we tend to just like dust ourselves off and get up and start dating again without doing any work to clean up what came through. And I took a lot of the work. I mean, my new program I'm launching, which is called Love After Heartbreak, is because people tend to love ignoring the heartbreak. You know, they go out looking for love to spackle over. There's a good word, spackle over the heartbreak. They don't actually do anything to heal it, so they sort of cover it up. Mm-hmm. And one of my one person, like Barbara Angelis, talks about this, about how when we don't heal our past heartbreaks, we have more of a heart covered up. So it means we have less love to give because we've got all this, as I call it, spackle, covering up our heart, so that only a little crack of it is open for the love to come out. So when we go into a new relationship, we're only loving with like 10% of our love, which is not really what the other person deserves. And it's only what you need to give. Yeah. So until you are, as a human being, choosing to face what hasn't been healed first and do the work to heal yourself, and both of us can help with that for sure on my new program designed for that, then you'll be in a place where you can actually love fully again, both for yourself, which is what you need to do, is love yourself. That's another topic we covered before. And also be in a place where you can meet somebody, and when it's the right person, you can give them all the love and they can enjoy it as well. Mm-hmm. That's what ideally a healthy relationship is. And for most people, I think a lot of reason they don't love fully and why they do feel afraid is because they're afraid they're going to get hurt again, because those past hurts are still inside. They haven't resolved them yet.
Yep.
So fears in dating oftentimes are tied to past history that you haven't been willing to look at. You've like closed the door and you're like, I'm not looking over there anymore. I'm going to go this way. Meanwhile, it's still there knocking on the door saying, can I come in?
I love the spackle image because, you know me, the person's been hurt and they put up the castle walls and bring up the drawbridge and have people eating alligators and boiling oil and lots of arrows. And because it's our instinct to go into protection mode rather than learning healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a better way to look at, wow, I got devastated. How do I heal that rather than, whoa? Because I said, even the most healthy person is going to look at that whole thing and go, I don't even know how to get in there or say hello. Right. Or, it's a lot. And I'd love to. You seem really interesting, but it's a lot to get through. So when you do the healing, all those walls come down, but you have a better filtering system. Because you've been letting people just run in, and no, we need filtering and vetting. And so that's what we could talk about next, to allay some of the fears, I think.
Yes, so we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll go into a lot much more detail.
Yes, we'll be right back.
See you in a minute.
And we're back. So we left off talking about wounds and hurts and heartbreaks and breakups and yes, it can be easier to be the leave or, than the leave E. It's
Right.
still hard on everybody's hearts and everybody's self-confidence. And some people do it well, most people not so much. And that's when we start putting up the walls and closing off our heart with the speckle, saying, well, that felt awful and I don't want to do that again. So now I'm going to do nothing, or I'm going to put them through the ringer before I let them get close. And none of that is a healthy way to have a potential of a relationship, even a friendship.
Right.
To come from such a hurt, negative, I'm just going to like peek out from here because I'm feeling so cautious and nervous. And I've been amazed, that everybody's amount of how they feel the hurt is different. And whether it's big or small, or whether it's the first time or the 15th time, we all go into protection mode. We all go into, I have to keep my heart safe. I trusted them and I'm never trusting again. And all men or all women are not good. And if you want to have a full life where you allow people in your life on various levels, friendships, family members, business colleagues, and love, you can't be all closed off like that. It's never going to work. You're going to meet some really closed off people, and then everybody's going to be closed off. And I don't find that fulfilling at all. So how do you learn how to vet somebody? How do you learn how to modulate how close you let somebody get until you know that it's okay to let them get closer, which never makes them a bad person necessarily. It just means, I can do this kind of things with you, but I can't do this. I could have this kind of conversation, but I can't really have the more intimate, intimacy kind of conversation. Perfect. I mean, having a wide variety of experiences in your life with relationships is healthy. But if it's like a hose or like the speckle, you don't have room. How could you even have a variety, much less fall deeply in love? I mean, absolutely. I don't know how anybody could do that.
No, but there are a lot of people walking around, to be honest, with that sort of, the slot in the fence looking out at the world type viewpoint. Which is also a great analogy too.
Yes, good.
It's the fence down because it keeps you protected. And because most people have gone through relationships where it didn't end well, so they're carrying this sense of hurt inside, which oftentimes feels like a 5-year-old like protecting themselves, going, "No, I don't want any more of that." And they got this whole like protection going up. It's not necessarily a mature adult viewpoint because it goes that deep inside us. Yeah. So rather than unpacking that and doing some work to heal, which we'll talk about, we'd rather just put up walls and protect it, thinking eventually that pain will subside. I've talked about before how, they say time heals all wounds. And I say, no, it heals physical wounds, but time numbs emotional wounds. It doesn't do anything to help them. They're still there. They don't get resolved. And so the idea that you want to go and love again, and you haven't done any inner work to heal those emotional and heart wounds you've been carrying for the last 12 relationships or whatever it's been, means the next person you date is not going to get all of you, which we talked about earlier. And you said the same thing. So it is vital for your own happiness and for the future partner's happiness that you actually do the work necessary to heal and alleviate or release those past wounds so you can be free and whole again. And oftentimes it comes down to those really annoying things like self-forgiveness and compassion and self-care, so those little nitty-gritty things. But
looking into yourself, introspective kind of, why do I have to do that? I want somebody else to do all the work, or I want them to come fix my pieces for me. And it is interesting because when you first become aware, you're like, wow, I really do have some broken pieces in me. Oh, yeah. Does that make me a bad person? No, it just now made you an aware person. And it made you pretty darn human because everybody's got them. Yeah. And then at that moment, you get to make a choice. And we all have made both of them. Not right now. Or maybe I'll do this much. Or maybe I'll jump in with both feet. And none of those are a bad decision because there's times when it's not the right time. Okay. But what I suggest is put a pin in it. Yeah. Put a date on your calendar. Okay, I'm going to at least revisit it in a month. I could still say no. I'm going to at least bring it forward and consciously think about it. Because typically with us human beings, when it starts bothering us enough, that's when we're going to do something about it. So if it just keeps like, oh, remember that? And maybe you'll feel a little better. And maybe it would get rid of this abscess that's growing in your emotional state. Maybe we could like talk to somebody. Maybe we could look into something. Let's just go look on the internet. Let's just go look at a podcaster. Let's go look at a book. There's no harm in that. I mean, little tiny baby steps are perfectly acceptable. You do not have to jump in with both feet, even though we're a very soft landing if somebody does that with us.
It's true indeed, yeah.
So, but what's the best is, and you and I have experienced it personally and watched our clients when they get past that, ooh, and now they've done some work and they're like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had my cataract surgery. Now I've had both of them.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the world being bright. Oh my God. I feel like I should wear sunglasses in my house. It's like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can now use it as a physical example of, wow, I never felt this way before, or I used to feel this way and now I feel this way again. I feel like I'm experiencing life on a bigger basis. I'm more open to smelling the air and trying something new that I've always wanted to try. And yes, you add dating to that, but it's the huge big picture, the huge experience that, because as you're limiting, it limits everything.
Right.
You can't just turn off a little bit over here in this one little pocket and have it not affect all of your heart, all of your emotions, all of your experiences. Guaranteed, if you risk this, because it does feel like a risk, I'll say it out loud, the reward is amazing. And to not walk around afraid, cautious, concerned, being aware, asking questions, sure, but afraid. Oh, that's a terrible way to live. And we live generally in an area where we can lay the groundwork where if we have self-confidence and self-knowledge and listen to ourselves, there's really not a reason to be afraid.
Right.
You can be all those lesser things, but there's people that live places where they can't even walk out of their house. They could get hit with a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be worried about going out and meeting somebody new that could potentially be a nice friend or somebody to fall madly in love with. How sad is that we're limiting ourselves? I think it's sad.
Well, the thing is that some people do carry that fear of that emotional bomb outside the door.
Yes.
When they meet somebody they're going to be afraid of, or the same again. Same thing happened last time. The whole repeat pattern cycle in their heads that's going round and round and round, telling them stories that aren't true, but based on experience, it seems like it's true because you did it before. It's going to happen again, so you don't want to risk it again. So you don't want to risk going dating, and so you live in fear of dates. And it's like, no, that tape that's running can be rewritten or could be erased and start over again if you're willing to face that. And it is, as I joked around earlier about the inner work, the forgiveness and self-acceptance and self-appreciation, and do his inner work to clean things out. Because I think I'm going to play the car analogy again because I've done this before with the paint stuff. But it's that thing about with the spackle. So the idea of the spackle is basically when you can't do the full repair in a lot of senses. Rather than doing full cleaning out and making everything whole again, we cover up those bruises or those cuts, so to speak, emotionally speaking, with spackle to make it look better. But we know deep down inside it's not making a difference. It's not fixing anything. It's just hiding it. It's not even protecting it, frankly, because spackle is very brittle anyway. So it's not exactly like putting a shield up to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. So to be willing with a safer container, with somebody who knows what they're doing, can be a gentle place to land, as you mentioned, both of us have that space, to face those fears that you carry and those wounds that you carry and those upset memories that are still running around inside, and actually unpacking them and cleaning them out and making yourself whole again. First of all, as you said, life gets a lot better and brighter. I mean, I love the idea that the ways of the cataracts, like that sense of seeing the world through clear eyes, so to speak, because you're now clear what's going on and you're not looking through the lens of past mistakes, past errors and self-judgment. To see life that clearly, the fears you realize are just wisps. They have no power over you.
Oh, yes.
And we did talk about at the beginning of the show about those physical things. Those don't go away. I understand, but it's a physical thing. You still want to be cautious and present to the world a safe way of being, so that you do take care of yourself and don't risk running blindly out in the street, sort of thing. But at the same time, you don't carry around fear on the emotional level for what might happen in the dates, because you know yourself now.
Yeah.
You make peace with yourself, and you have a much more solid foundation in your own heart of what loving really is, which is way better than what you probably carried around before. I know for myself that was the work I did. So,
and
yeah.
and I'm glad you clarified that, because when I said about going out, I do mean the physical, but also the emotional. Sitting across from the table from somebody, how much are you going to reveal? How are you going to accept the things that they say to you? How important that is to have the filter. There's the bigger holes, and then the smaller holes, and then the smaller holes, and the smaller holes, but they have to pass through all of that. And if you do that, it makes the world so much more available.
Yeah.
When you know that you know how to do this differently and better. I mean, that's the optimum. That's what you really want. And I know you know the acronym for fear, and it's false evidence appearing real. In this instance, most of what people worry about in dating is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Even if it's happened before, we know it could not happen another time. We can prevent it. We can see it coming. We can we can deflect it. We can not go. We could ask questions a different way. We could be more solid in what we're thinking. So it really is false evidence that it's going to repeat itself.
Right. And it's not what's out there, it's what we create.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we blow it up in our minds. And the longer, that's the thing about, they say when you fall off a horse, you have to get right back on. So the 2 times I fell off, I got right back on. And when Rosie fell on my leg, I couldn't get on for 3 months. And I wanted to get on because I didn't want to not ride again, but I bawled the release and the emotion and the fear of not riding for 3 whole months. So that's how this is. The longer you wait to go out again with some healing behind you and some new knowledge, the more the fear is going to get monstrous. It's going to be completely out of whack of what it really is. I mean, sometimes when people start laughing, when they start really voicing what the concerns have been, they're like, I guess I kind of blew that out of proportion. But we do that as human beings.
When fear does show up, oftentimes it does tend to what's I'm looking for? Self-inflame. it tends to grow its own one. Yeah, because that's the thing. And it's funny because you use that, because I know 2 other acronyms for fear. So when or alliterations, because so you've got this thing with saying, false expectations appearing real, which is definitely one of the big ones. One of the other ones I've used a lot, which I'm trying to fits in this one as well, which is forget everything and run, which is a good one too, because it is about the fact that rather than remembering who you are in your relationship, you'd rather just turn tail and run. So you miss out on possible love because you haven't done the work to realize you don't have to run away from somebody. You can actually stand in your truth and love and kindness and see this person where they really are. Maybe I think your mom's better.
Really, if anybody remembers either of them, to go, and make that decision, even if you don't know what to do about it, make the decision of, I don't want to live that way anymore. Yes. I don't want to approach a relationship this way again. Yeah. I mean, I said out loud in all the dates I've been on, and it was a lot, especially between my marriages, I was never once afraid, not once, because I listened every time. And there were times I said no thank you, and I didn't have a lot of evidence about why I was saying no thank you, but my instinct said no, this is not the right thing. And I go, okay, and I'd say no thank you. I'd say no thank you to a conversation. I'd say no thank you to meeting in person. I still met plenty of men who were nice to me. They just weren't a match, but it was never scary. And when I talked to mostly women about this, but men a few, there was a little, really pay attention, ask some more questions, do a little extra diligence, be a little more cautious, and they threw caution to the wind and they were not happy with the results. But when we analyze that, they're like, oh, I did know, I just ignored it. So
Yeah.
learning how to listen, make it available, trust it. Oh, then you can go out. So I'm going to say fearless and
Mm-hmm.
cautious,
Yes.
because walking around in fear is
Right.
never going to get you where you want to be, especially not in love.
Looking for love from fear doesn't work, period.
Never.
And the thing is that, back to that piece you said, and I want to underscore that piece, is that when we haven't done what it is to make peace with, heal, and recovers wounds, we do tend to go out dating from a much more limited viewpoint, that sort of narrow looking through the chink in the wall. And so when we meet somebody, we don't have the sensitivity to ourselves to notice, hang on, this doesn't feel right, or yes, this feels great. We sort of push our way through, and sometimes we don't. Bottom line is very simple. When we don't do the work, we tend to miss opportunities. And to really see, again, said earlier, see clearly, because we've done the washing of the windows, so we can see more clearly. Got to find analogy that fit. Then it becomes a much easier place to discern: is this a good person I want to meet, or is it not? And walk away if it's not. If it is, then follow through. But it makes sense. Like, the best chance to win is to do the work to get everything else out of the way so you can. It's kind of what we're saying here in bottom line. And so when you're out dating, you're not bringing fear with you, because fear, again, doesn't help love exist very well. It's like when you're loving, you don't need fear. When you're in fear, you don't have love. So it's kind of like, do what you can to reduce or remove the fear that's out there, because a lot of the fear is not physical, it's internal.
Mm-hmm.
And be clear and be strong. And yes, keep your wits around you, please.
Yes.
But then it means you're available to love, because you're actually more at peace inside yourself, and you also care about who you are, so you don't make as many mistakes. I won't say don't make any mistakes, but don't make as many mistakes.
Yeah, what I've learned is, as you do more internal work, as you get more assured with, I'm doing the healing, I'm putting new tools in my toolbox to date better as I'm healing my old wounds, the fear goes down and the more excitement goes up.
Yeah.
It's really been interesting, because it's like they're self-balancing. So if you've got too much fear, you can't be having a lot of happy over here.
Right.
But the more the fear goes down, the more the happy's going to go up, and the more fulfilling. And it's been so fun to watch this journey with other people and get to walk alongside of them. I know you do too.
Yeah.
When this rebalancing happens, they're like, wow, it really was worth the work. It was worth examining. It was worth doing something that felt kind of scary to do some internal work. So worth it.
Absolutely.
To approach the world with less fear. I mean, wow, who doesn't want that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you want to be more happy and less fearful, that's kind of what we're talking about here in simple terms.
Yeah. Let's just cut to the chase, right?
Yes.
That's what you and I offer.
Indeed, we do.
Less fear, more happiness. Who wouldn't want that? I like it.
Me too.
So even though we could certainly talk about this for 2 hours more, and we will certainly have more levels of this, what fears people have about dating. And if you want to talk to either one of us about what fears you still have, and maybe some of this has rung a bell about old dating patterns that have happened, or old family messages, or ways that you find, gosh, I might be limiting myself, or I'd like to just see if I'm limiting myself. So the way to talk to me is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and click on what's holding you back from love. And you can then have a private conversation with me to see if maybe we're comfortable working together. You can also join my email list, and you'll get a replay of our wonderful podcast every week. You can also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can also see my personal Facebook Lives I've done, and my podcast with Barry on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Pinterest.
Nicely done.
I'm getting almost as good at this as Barry.
She's back.
I know. And I've got my new eyes.
This is good. Firing all cylinders.
People how they can reach you.
Indeed. So my website and all my social media is basically my name. So you go to barryselby.com is my site. as I mentioned, I've got a new program launching. If you want to find out more about that, I have a wait list on my website, which is barryselby.com/loveafter. So you can just sign up there on my wait list, and I'll reach out to you and talk to you more about it. If you want to join my email list, which is at the bottom of the homepage of my website, that's where also I send out a replay of our show every week as well. So you can go on either one and get both of those. Also on my website is my book, online courses, some videos that I've put together as well. And speaking of videos, I have a YouTube channel which has at least 1,500 videos on it now, including this show and a bunch of other things on there as well. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is, again, all my social media is Barry Selby. So on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, YouTube, as I mentioned, and on Pinterest, and then my and also on Clubhouse. Excuse me, I'm still on Clubhouse, and also on Instagram. It's different because I originally lost my original account. So if you go to the real Barry Selby on Instagram, you can find me there. So definitely follow us both on our social media platforms and get our email list, because besides sending out replays of this show, we talk about other things too.
We do. We have lots of very interesting dating and relationship conversations.
Indeed.
And we'd love for you to come back next week. And we're here every Thursday, 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and all the times in between in the middle part of the country. And we'd love to hear your comments about what we've said. If you have questions or you have a subject that you'd like us to discuss, and please share this with your other single friends that are kind of stuck in their dating lives.
Oh yeah.
We're happy to chat with them too.
You never know who this might help. It might not be you, but somebody you know. So definitely share this video out with your friends.
The gift that keeps on giving, right?
Indeed.
So we'll see all of you next week.
See you next week. Take care of yourselves.
Bye for now.